this question is, of course, only one of you will win the election. So after the election is over, will you commit to being active in the community if you lose the election? First, candidate Carter.
Of course, I was active before I ran. I will remain active after I run. I'm a servant. I'm putting myself in a position to be a servant to address the future. That's it. If you elect me, I will be honored and I will do my best to represent you well. If you don't elect me, then I'll move on with my family and we'll do well together. But one thing I do want to mention, since I have a little bit more time, Mr. Davis mentioned that they floated a bond. The Compton College floated a bond, $100 million bond, and thought that probably wouldn't be around. So just because we hear bonds floating, it doesn't mean that the issue is going to be addressed. So that means that we have to have oversight over situations to make sure things are done. So I just want to make that clear.
Thank you. Mr. Davis?
Yes, and I wrote the argument against that $100 million bond issue. You gotta know your history, people. I wrote the argument against it. And the one on school district 2, the first one, it failed the first time. I made a mistake and didn't write the argument against this last one at the college. I talked to the president of the college last night. Yes, I told him he got a free ride on that one. But, no, I lost my phone. You got me twisted over here.
That was his partner that who helped him fight City Hall and all the racist shit.
Oh.
Remember?
Oh, yeah.
He is the key. He is the main. Like when.
I'll put him out in just a minute.
Hello, how you doing? Nah.
You lived Mexico before?
Yes, I started in Mexico. Ah, you married some jewel there.
Yeah. And they have it. Now, there always been, you see, they called this one time Banana Hill because the Asians are here. See, the Asians here. But it's a little harder for the blacks and it's a little harder for the Latinos, you know, to get here. A lot of people don't know, Brother Muhammad, that this is the place to be if you want to make money. Because I just give you, for instance, the house that I moved out of was right up the hill here on Elmdale. We moved, only stayed there 8 years and moved here. Paid, listen to what I'm going to say, we paid $200,000 for that property, okay? In 8 years, that property went from $200,000 to $500,000. Can't make that kind of money.
True.
Working.
Wow.
You see? But we, meaning minorities, don't know how to get into the areas that is going to bring the appreciation so that you can leave, listen to what I'm going to say, the legacy for your
Children.
children.
I wonder how much I can get from my card.
28 cents in a windshield wiper.
When I drive just 10 miles, every 10 miles or 20 at
Yes,
least.
yeah.
What do I do?
Pull the car over and put water in it.
Well, but you see, there's two reasons for doing that. I did that for years. This car now, this 4Runner, we didn't used to drive that at all. I used to have a Nissan Sentra. And I'm the only person, you see, just like you have that old car, I'm the only person up here who come up here in an old car like that. I did it for years, you see, and I symbolized that, you know, I'm from the hood, you see. It's just like this one, that car out there is not spick and span. I have my Lexus and I have my Vet in the garage. But I drive that, you see.
That's what Howard Hughes used to do, okay?
I told him right now when I park,
Yeah.
I said, for sure the neighbors around here, they know that I don't live here.
Well, but
There goes the neighborhood.
But they knew that I lived here because I drove I drove the Nissan, not a Corolla. Yeah. And I didn't wash it. But because I go to the ranch, you know, and I have a hay and everything, and then the dog and all kind of stuff. But that was just my own
Right.
intrinsic
Right,
moray,
right,
which I use because, you know, so many people are plastic, you
right.
see? And I put myself in a position where you can't say that I'm a snob.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
we've been friends 25
yeah,
years.
yeah.
And
yeah.
we had a, you know, he helped me raise my kids. They call him Theo.
Yeah.
We have a struggle.
Yeah,
So,
oh, yeah.
so 25 years ago, we founded the first black and brown political comedy radio show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, called Tacos and Grits. You know, and today our radio station is KTNG 860 AM. Stands for K Tacos and Grits. As soon as I get some cards, I'll give you some cards. And what we represent is black and brown unity. That's what we represent. No, it's not a black thing.
Right.
It's not a black radio. It's not a brown radio. You know what we do
It's
is
unity radio.
right.
Right.
That's exactly.
Unity radio, yeah.
And the thing about it is that this is what we fight for.
Right.
And I have said it many times over, even at the council meeting, Compton has potential to become
Absolutely.
the model city for the nation,
Yes.
where black and brown people
Can
live.
flourish.
Look, I go to
Right.
Compton,
Right.
black, brown, you know, everywhere I go, black and brown neighbors,
Yeah.
interchanging. And I see many Blexicans, which I have one too, my grandson,
Uh-huh.
Mexican black,
Uh-huh.
you know. So we have to get away from that stereotypical
We do.
mentality,
Yeah.
divide and
But we have to
conquer.
teach it first, brother.
Exactly.
See,
And that's
we get into a microcosm where we start teaching, and then it will spread out.
exactly
Yeah.
that's what I was telling him.
Yeah.
There's avenues when we get our building, you know, we would like to have you come aboard, you know, because you're a big asset to the community, to the radio station, you know, and we can do a lot of things to reach out to the black and brown communities.
Well, the thing is, let me put some seeds into your head and see if you.
I used to
are
teach
able-
Spanish.
Yeah, I know what you told me. Let me put a seed into your head so that you will know what the basis of the neighborhood survival would be. Okay. Now, how you're going to do it is a question. Can you do it? Yes, you can do it, but you have to start. The neighborhood that we're talking about, you have to talk one particular centralized focused neighborhood, which we talk about Richland Farm. Not all of Compton, just start on a segment of Compton. The richest and the most valuable group in Compton will be the people in Richland Farm who own those horses and cows and have those big luxury lots. You see, those people have their antenna up for a change. My point is, listen to what I'm going to say. You have to develop a neighborhood bank. Okay? You have to when you develop people coming and bringing their resources into one central location or like a storehouse, just like they do with India. They have these small loans. One guy, he's loaning this money to people. When we get into that kind of a situation, then we can bring prosperity. First to the neighborhood, wealth to the neighborhood. Then from the wealth to the neighborhood goes wealth to the individuals who are in that neighborhood. Because the resources that can be produced, whether it's range chickens, meaning chickens that are organic, that you raise them for the neighborhood. You're not raising them for yourself. You're raising them for the neighborhood. The neighborhood's going to produce these and make sure that these are then spread out among the people who need survival and subsistence in the neighborhood. You see? Okay, that takes in your meat products, your chickens, your beef, everything, goats, everything. Everybody's working together. See, we're all being underwritten by our neighborhood. Our vegetables the same way. Then when it comes to the land and the homes and the farms in there, then we, at a neighborhood, we finance those people who move into that neighborhood. We control it, and then you can have a neighborhood that has horses, cows, chickens, all kinds of agricultural programs in perpetuity.
Now, speaking on that, because needless to say, we do have to get to City Hall by 1 o'clock. So
Oh,
I don't want,
I'm sorry.
yeah, so I don't
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
you guys to overrun your time and so
Yeah,
forth.
yeah.
So therefore,
Because you just tell me what you want me to do, and I'll do it.
yeah, well, it's up to him.
Oh, well,
Because he's going to sit up and talk about everything else but what needs to be done here.
Yeah,
And we're on-
okay.
And we're on
Okay,
a
we're
time
gonna just
schedule.
start it because we're on a time
Yeah.
limit then, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Dr. Wilkins,
But before you start, let me just fill you into one other thing too. This is the entire story, my friend, of the confiscation of $250,000 from the area of Richland Farms, which I'm talking about.
exactly,
Okay.
that's what we're here for.
Okay, this, and I'll give you this newspaper. You'll be able to take it with you. You can read it. The whole story is in here about how those peoples, they raided these people without any notification. They came onto their property, felony trespassing. They broke into their backyards. They confiscated their property, okay? They petitioned to the court, took them to court, in other words. They took them to court, and they put these people on trial for felony animal abuse. Beside milking cows without a license, having too many cows, etc. Which they didn't have too many cows because there were no limits on the cows in Richland Farms until Mrs. Arsenault changed the zoning, you see. She changed the zoning and said, oh, now you can only have 5 cows per half acre. But that's okay. You can change the zoning, but you cannot retroactively enforce it because it's a zoning law. But the city of Compton doesn't. They break the law to make the law. Okay, they break the law. In other words, they don't adhere to any tradition or any law of the state or the county. They do what they want to do. Now, I'm trying to get you to understand that.
Please continue.
Okay, and so because they changed the law, they put the people in bad stead. And they prosecute. They weren't supposed to prosecute people for having too many cows when they moved in there. That wasn't the law. Okay, so they took them to court on that, and they took them to court on milking without a license, and they took them on felony animal abuse, saying that the animals were walking around in mud after a rain, and so they were endangered. So they had to take the people's cows and goats and cows, goats, and calves away from them. So you'll be able to take that. I don't know if you knew this or not.
No.
But this happened in like 206. 206, okay?
Good.
Not too far.
I couldn't have said it any better.
Yeah.
Now, what is the connection between Mr. Luis Cepeda, the small farmer,
Yes, yeah.
who's your friend
Yes.
also? What can you tell us about
Okay.
that story?
Okay, that's his story. This is Mr. Luis Zapata's story.
Cepeda.
But Cepeda, because Cepeda was raided on this day. And they took from him, I think, about 16 cows and calves off of his property. They didn't take his roosters. He had also roosters there, you see, which they have also outlawed. Mrs. Arsenault outlawed these. Now, when the white man was there, the white man had all kinds of animals in Richland Farms. For example, the lady that lived next to me, she raised pheasant and quail, sold them all over the state. A man named Mr. Robert Luss lived on Greenleaf. He had an acre and he had a rabbit farm. A rabbit farm with hundreds of rabbits that he was producing and selling, for profit. Now, what Mrs. Arsenault did, she came in and changed all of the zoning, so now these people can make no profit on their property at all.
Why is that?
Because they're saying that, for example, if you have a cow, it's only for members of the family. If you have a horse or a goat or a rabbit, it's only members of the family. You can't sell any eggs. You can't sell any rabbits. You can't sell any goats. Mrs. Arsenault, these dang fools,
Let me ask you something.
Now, I can bring to you the ordinance, not today, but because we're busy, but I can show you the zoning of these, the city ordinances where they have changed this.
Good.
Okay? Because it's not something that is secret. They changed the zoning without input to the neighborhood.
Now,
And that's against the law. Go ahead.
Let me ask you.
Mhm.
In Richland Farms, in a demographic structure,
Right.
how many? What's the percentage of Latino farmers and black farmers?
Well, okay,
in that particular
probably
area?
now it's probably now 65-35 or either 80-20. Basically, the Latinos have taken over the majority in Richland Farms today. It is 435 families.
Now let me ask you.
Mm.
Had the reverse been the other, do you think she would have done that?
She never did it. She didn't do it. She didn't do it. And they didn't start changing the zoning until 1989. I've been there since in the 1960s, 1963. Okay, they didn't start changing to 89. In 89, that's when the Latinos started coming in.
So do you think that would be?
No, in other words, I'm trying to tell you,
Racially motivated?
Yeah, it has to be racially motivated because it wasn't done to the white people. They didn't have any prohibitions on them. They didn't have any prohibitions on the black people. I have had horses since 1957. I'm 77 years old. This next month. 77, man. I've had horses working ponies since 1957. Okay. You heard the Watts Summer Festival, right? You know they had a big festival. You know the horses and the ponies that were in the festival, they were my horses and my ponies. People were riding for $1. You can't get on a damn horse for $1 any place, man. Not even in 1964.
No.
But because I gave the opportunity for these people, and where do those horses come out of? Those ponies they came from Richland Farms. Now they have it where you can't even have a horse and use it for a profit anymore, or use it to the public.
So what you would surmise it would be that she's holding back the Latino community from going forward.
We had our own water company. What was stolen from us, and it ended up in whose hands? The city of Compton.
And where's that money going to?
Where it's going now to feed the general fund for the city of Compton. Where did our money and our shares go? It must have gone up into flame because we never got one dime. I have 2 parcels in Richland Farms. I have supposed to receive $1,800 a parcel, okay, for them taking my rights, okay? They took my water rights away from me, okay? I got a dime, not a dime for it. What else? They also made us pay a fee of $2,000 a parcel for each property because they were going to realign the pipes feeding the house from the front. In other words, the water system will come in from the front instead of the back, the easement, okay? Now, they took, when they dug those trenches and put the water pipes to the front of our property, that's private property they're on. They have to pay us in order to put those lines down. Money was given in a grant to the city for that, and they stole it.
How do you know they stole it?
Because of the fact that if you want to dig on my personal property, okay, my property extends, young man, from the curb to the middle of the street. I technically own that property. Do you understand? From the curb side to the middle of the street, that's technically my property. If you're going to build a sewer or whatever you're going to build there, you have to reimburse me because those lines don't belong to me, they belong to the city now.
Who would you think would be held responsible for all that?
The city of Compton was held responsible for it because they bought the property without due process. What the city of Compton does, they change laws, make law. They don't do anything according to due process. Those are public hearings, legal notices, and written notices. Anything, just like these trees here, that when they wanted to change the zoning so that they would not permit any trees to block the view, what did you have to do? You had to have a public hearing. You had to notify each one of these people here in a public notice, but they don't do that in Compton.
Would you say that the present Compton City Council people that are in power right now, can they make those changes themselves?
Oh yes. Oh yeah, but they won't. They won't because they are in the vice of people who promote them and from people who are underwriting them, and they have to do as all other politicians. They have to follow those rules and regulations that they took the money on. Okay.
Who represents the Richland Farms?
Mrs. Arsenault, Mrs. Yvonne Arsenault. She's the councilwoman.
And do you think that she holds a key for making those changes, but she won't make those changes?
No, Mrs. Arsenault is one of the persons in the forefront of demeaning the neighborhood. She imposed upon, we had from almost 1,500 to 2,000 people at the Richland, not Richland, it was called Richland Farm, but it's Robert F. Kennedy School to oppose the restricted parking. That was in 2009. The Latinos were overflowing because, of course, the community is Latino. They just ignored us. When you have that many people opposed to something, there's supposed to be some action taken to ameliorate the situation. They didn't do it. They just, in a tyrannical manner, just imposed this upon us. Okay, that depreciates our property. You can't come into Richland Farms unless you have a pass, in other words.
How is that, please explain?
Well, sir, you take your Toyota into Richland Farms and you park it in front of my house at 716 Bennett, right? Well, I have two houses there, either one. And you leave the car there, you're going to get a $75 ticket. Because before parking on the street.
Is that all day?
24 hours a day.
So if I park there for 5 minutes, I'll get a ticket?
Yes.
Now, you, sir, what would be the solution? What would be your
Solution?
solution? Yes. What would be your
To the problems in Richland Farms?
Yes, please.
Okay. First, the parking problems in Richland Farms, there is no parking problem. We don't have a parking problem. There's no cars, you know, like when you see residential apartments and the streets are lined up with cars because there's too many houses. I mean, too many people for the amount of, okay, we don't have that. What they had did that for, what they inflicted the parking on us for two reasons. Number one, it devaluates your property. Anytime, do you see any street sweeping signs on this street? We have a street sweeper, brother. But there ain't no street sweeping signs up here and say that between 5 and 6 you're going to, you can't be on the street because of the street sweeper. This is a luxury community. They don't have that kind of stuff. They do that for the poor people to be able to control them, even with parking. See, that's another way to rake in some money. Now, do they have restricted parking here, out there? Yes, they do. You cannot park out there at a certain period of time. If you're parked out there at 5 o'clock in the morning, you're going to get a ticket. You see? But that's a certain period of time, right? There is restricted parking in Rolling Hills Estates. They have the restricted period of time to be in Compton, in Richland Farm. It's 24 hours a day. So how is someone going to buy property in Compton, in Richland Farm, and you have this restriction? Your neighbors can't even come and visit. You can't even have a meeting. You're going to have a sorority meeting, or fraternity meeting, or a car club. You can't meet because you can't get, they give you 40 passes. See, in other words, they're controlling your life. You want to give a homecoming or reunion for your family. You want to have honor your kid when she's 15 years old. Or yeah, right. You have to go ask permission to do these things. Come on, man. They don't do that here.
In your mind, in your perspective, what would be the best solution to the problem in Compton at this point in time?
Okay.
As a whole.
Okay, as a whole, you wanna know? It's simple. The people have to organize.